It is Kieran Trippier. It is delicious! Glorious! Glorious!
Walker in there too. Luke Shaw! Harry Kane wants it played into him. He chooses Grealish instead. It's Grealish! It's Kane! I think like this has happened for a long time. Here's the overhead kick from Kane! Palmer finds Watkins. Watkins turns! Watkins scores!
Hello, and welcome to the Gate 102 podcast. I hope I find you well. Thank you for tuning in. Hugely appreciated. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different today. It's going to be one of those extended sort of bonus episodes I do every now and then. Obviously, over the last 7 episodes, I've talked about England's 7 games at the 2018 World Cup. We had the group stage games against Tunisia, Panama and Belgium. And then I talked about the Colombia shootout win, as well as the victory over Sweden. And then I spoke about the defeat to Croatia in the semi-final. And then following that, I then briefly went over England's third place playoff game, which was against Belgium again. All these episodes are available wherever you get your podcasts. And I thought, having talked a lot about each game and the tournament as a whole, I've talked a lot about my memories, my experiences. We've got the crisis me and my dad had in there, which made us miss half an hour of the third place playoff against Belgium. There's also me jumping on my own dog in the quarter-final against Sweden. And then we have the face paint story against Colombia. There's so many memories that these tournaments do, and that's the great thing about these tournaments. They bring back so many memories. And I thought I've given my sort of thoughts and memories. So I thought it'd be nice to have an episode where England fans message in and share their thoughts, experiences, and favourite memories of the 2018 World Cup. So I'm not really going to do much talking from now on, because we received a lot of messages from a lot of fans, and also I think I've spoken enough about the tournament, and I think you all know my thoughts on it, as well as how certain individuals performed. So, yeah, what you're about to hear are from fellow England fans. Some of them you may know, some of them you might not. But all I will say is some of these people are also content creators, just like myself, and I'll post a link in the episode description where you can find them. But without any further delay, let's hear what these fans have to say.
Hiya mate, this is Gary here from Channel England Football on YouTube. The 2018 World Cup, well, what can I say? I just think it's one of the best tournaments I've ever experienced as a fan, and it just felt like that was the turning point for England's fortunes, and it sort of put England on the path now to being truly potential tournament winners. I go back to that Tunisia game. That Tunisia game was so important for me. That last minute winner by Harry Kane, a deserved winner as well, has to be said, but historically England always struggled to start tournaments well, and under Southgate that wasn't the case, and that started it all off. And not only did that goal set off England's tournament, but it set off England under Gareth Southgate, and I think it was just such an important moment in England's recent history. And from there, I mean, the penalty shootout win as well, it just felt like that tournament where things felt different. Historically, England wouldn't have won that opening game. We wouldn't have won that penalty shootout against Colombia. And it just felt like things were starting to change. And it's always felt the same since that moment. And it was just such an unbelievable experience as an England fan. I go back to that Croatia game though, when Trippier scored that 5th minute free kick. I mean, what a goal it was. And everyone just thought, this is it. World Cup final, we're there. Ultimately though, it did end in that usual England disappointment. And it did feel a bit like England allowed Croatia to get back into it, but still looking back, what a tournament, one of the best, easily. It does still feel a bit like what if, again, another what if moment, or it could have been tournament for England. But yeah, so many good memories. That Tunisia game and the penalty shootout win alone puts it right up there. What a tournament, and what a time to be an England fan.
Hi Charlie, Paul Dennis here. Thanks a lot for inviting me onto your podcast to discuss the 2018 Russia World Cup. It's a tournament I remember fondly. It's almost like the re-emergence of the England team after being humiliated a few years previously in Nice, which is a game that we all rather forget. But I was really impressed with how England played for the majority of the tournament. Shame we couldn't go one step further and at least get to the final. But overall, I was really impressed with how England played. And just a shame we couldn't get over the line and get into that final. But one story I remember was meeting someone in a place town called Penza on the way from Volgograd. We had a week gap in between, like the first and second game. So we stopped at a couple of different places. Saratov was one, and then Penza was the second for a few days. And just go into a coffee shop, and obviously there's not too many, they don't bump into too many English tourists there. So I got chatting with some people in there, knew I was English, and one guy got talking to me, and he said, what's your plans for the tournament? What are you doing here? I said, I'm just stopping here on the way up to Nizhny Novgorod to watch the England-Panama game. And he said, I'm going to that game as well. So, let's exchange contact details, and then we'll meet you up there. So I said, yeah, let's do that. It'll be interesting. And so long story short, when we got to Nizhny Novgorod, the guy I was travelling with, we had an Airbnb booked, and we couldn't make contact with him despite the taxi driver making several calls to them when we were on the way down there. It was about 4 or 5 miles outside of the city centre. And yeah, they just didn't show up. We didn't have a block number or house number or anything for the address. So we were stuffed. And so we came back into the middle of the town, middle of the city, and got the driver dropped us off at a hostel, and we just got on their Wi-Fi. The first message I had, the first ping that came up was Kamil, who I met in Penza. So he was asking, like, what have you done? Have you arrived here yet? And he obviously we said what had happened, and he said, come and stay at our apartment if you want to do that for one night. And he had like an apartment on the edge of town, and was organising food and transport for us. Really, really helpful guy. Really, really something I just remember for the rest of my life, really, how helpful he was, and really made us welcome in the country. So, yeah, very fond memories. And at the end of the World Cup, I think on the World Cup final day, Vladimir Putin extended the validity of the fan ID. So that meant you could travel to Russia, until the end of 2018. And Kamil is a Spartak Moscow fan, and they were drawn to play Rangers in the Europa League. So we discussed things, whether he wanted to come to the game in Glasgow, even though he hadn't been to the UK before. He said, yeah, I want to come and make the effort to come over and watch the game, and he did so. And then I went back to Moscow to watch the Spartak v Rangers game out there in November 2018. So great to catch up with him again. That's what these tournaments are all about, really, making friends and seeing different cultures. And it's a tournament, an experience I will never ever forget. So all the best with the podcast. Hope everything goes well.
Hi, my name's Kunal, and I'm part of England Block 109, and here's my take on the 2018 World Cup in Russia. So going into the 2018 World Cup, as England supporters, we didn't know what to expect. We just had a bad couple of tournaments as England supporters, with the whole Iceland shambles in France in 2016, and then the 2014 World Cup wasn't great either. So whilst we were looking forward to the World Cup, it had a different feeling about it. We weren't sure what to expect. As England supporters, we hadn't been used to any good tournaments in the recent years. Just went into the tournament hoping for the best. I was really excited to go to that World Cup. Although there wasn't as many England supporters that were travelling out for the initial games, because a lot of people weren't keen on going to Russia at the time. Maybe because they just didn't fancy it. But when we went there, the first game in Volgograd against Tunisia started off with a late winner, and I think that really changed the tone of the tournament for us. We hadn't won an opening match at a tournament in ages, and I think if anything's to go by, that kind of set up the tournament and what was to come after. I really enjoyed the tournament. The hospitality in Russia was great in all the cities we visited. It was a great atmosphere amongst the travelling support of England supporters. As the tournament went on, as England got further and further, it just seemed to get more and more enjoyable. One of my favourite memories would probably be the penalty shootout against Colombia in the round of 16. Never in my lifetime at that time did I think we'd ever see England win a penalty shootout, given our recent history. But, that was a magical night. That night in Moscow will never be forgotten. Following on from that, we went on to Samara, and Samara I really enjoyed. It had nice beaches, locals who were very friendly. It was a good vibe, good atmosphere, and overall I thought the tournament was great. It was just a shame we didn't make it to the final, but overall up till the semi-final, we had a great time and enjoyed it.
Hi Charlie, Matt here from Bridging the Divide. I hope you and the listeners are well, and thanks for asking me to say my piece on the 2018 World Cup. First off, I think my kind of biggest highlight was the fact that the run to the semis was unexpected. We didn't expect England to get that far in the tournament, and just brilliant to be part of that journey, but also the fact that the summer was just fantastic weather the whole time. So it felt like we were in just one long party for like 3.5, 4 weeks, able to go out, go to the pub, go get pints, and it was sunny all the time. So it was just a great time to be just enjoying life, really. But I think from, going towards the football, from a footballing perspective, my highlights have to be, I've got 3 or 4 here. So I've gone for, first off, Kane versus Tunisia. I'd had shoulder surgery about 5 weeks before that game. And obviously when that late goal goes in, which after watching the game, you think, oh no, we're not going to get this over the line. Just when that goal goes in, the euphoria meant I completely forgot about my arm and my shoulder and lifted it up above my head for the first time in almost sort of 5.5 weeks, and felt like it nearly popped out of my shoulder socket. So, I guess that's what football does to you. Then swiftly moving on to the penalty shootout win against Colombia, just that, again, euphoria really of finally breaking that penalty hoodoo was just brilliant. Sweden in the quarterfinals. It's probably the most comfortable I've ever felt watching England in a major tournament. When the first goal goes in, I just thought, yep, that's it. We're going to beat these. We're better. We're going to do this, and never felt concerned we weren't going to get there. And then obviously Trippier versus Croatia. I mean, that was just total madness when that goal goes in. Unfortunately, it ended badly, but we'll always have that free kick. So for me, what a tournament. I've always loved watching England from as young as I can remember, but this felt like the tournament where England really brought the love back nationwide. So for me, I just think, yeah, what a tournament. It was great. Loved it. And, bring it back again if it was up to me. Thanks. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Hi, my name is Russell Osborne. My memories of Russia 2018. Well, I remember going into it without huge expectations, especially following the previous World Cup in Brazil and the French Euros 2 years before. Qualification had been good, especially after the initial managerial upheaval. And from a personal point of view, I knew I wasn't able to go out there for too long, but having already visited Russia before, I wasn't totally put out. But when the draw was made, I knew I wanted to try and get to the exclave of Kaliningrad. It's between Poland and Lithuania. And by chance, that was hosting our third group game against Belgium. And I'll come to that in a moment. Usually when a tournament is approaching, the British media go to town on all the negative aspects of the country. Russia was no different. Talk of corruption, human rights, LGBT rights, and there was the recent annexing of Crimea. We're also grouped in with Tunisia and Panama, so my hopes of getting out of the group were fairly high. The squad looked good, and Gareth Southgate seemed to instill a positivity around the team, despite many fans, I guess, not seemingly getting carried away. I remember watching the Tunisia game and thoughts going back to 1998 when we played them in the opening game. I think we got out of jail, really, didn't we? Harry Kane getting the winner in the last minute. I'm not sure what the media would have been like had we not have beaten them. But a win was a win, especially in a World Cup opener. So important. Panama was more like what we were expecting, or probably a little bit more than what we were expecting. Was it 5-0 at half-time? And in the second half, Harry Kane claiming a hat-trick after deflecting a shot off his heel, I think it was. I seem to remember at the time it provided a lot of jokes and memes. But 6 points in the bag, we'd qualified, job done. And it was now my turn to be part of the tournament. I travelled to Lithuania to get on a fan-organised coach that was heading to Kaliningrad for that Belgium game. It was a game that would decide who would top the group. As it turned out, it would be Belgium, as they won 1-0. But I had a great time anyway, exploring the city, mixing with other fans in the fan zones. No sign of trouble. Everyone just watching the games on the big screen. But despite losing to Belgium, we seem to have found ourselves in the other side of the draw. Some would have said the weaker side. Although I think in reality there isn't a weaker side in a World Cup. Colombia had topped their group, and they would be our opponents in the round of 16. And you know that any South American side is going to be tough. But I kind of thought that as Gareth had rested his players for that Belgium game, I was confident. And Harry Kane converts his penalty, sort of justified my confidence then. Although I remember being angry at the Colombians doing their best to scuff the spot up, the penalty spot. And then, of course, in the last minute, they equalised. Goes to extra time. And I remember thinking back then, with the possibility of extra time, there always comes the possibility of penalties. And that was the reality. I'm old enough to remember the shootouts of 1990, of 96, 98, 2006. And with that, I have to admit, I kind of felt our journey was coming to an end so soon. But thankfully, Eric Dyer put that hoodoo to bed. And with it, you could feel a weight had been lifted, not just from the country, but Gareth Southgate himself. Sweden in the quarter-finals, and this prior to the tournament was my expectation, the quarters. I remember it being a warm, sunny day. My town actually had just had its annual street parade, and everyone was in a good mood, knowing that the game was coming up. And in the end, it kind of felt like a formality. We were a step up from the Swedes, who in the past had given us more of a game. And for the first time since 1990, we were in a World Cup semi-final. Croatia were the opponents. And they topped their group with maximum points. But their knockout games had both ended in draws, both gone to extra time, and both gone to shootouts. So I remember thinking these are positives, that they would be tired from all that extra effort. And when Kieran Trippier put us ahead after 5 minutes with that free kick, it was easy to get carried away. And I confess, at half-time, I was on Skyscanner looking for flights to Moscow. Sadly, it wasn't to be, as Luka Modric began pulling the strings and Croatia found themselves back in the game, equalising. And it was probably here where people's perception of Gareth Southgate began, of not changing things sooner. But yeah, extra time again. Again, the thoughts of penalties entered my head. But Mandzukic made sure that it didn't go that far as he scored the winner, and ultimately we were out. But all in all, Russia was a tournament, I think, where pride was restored, expectations exceeded and dreams reignited. And probably that goes down with thanks to Gareth Southgate.
Well, there you have it. So many brilliant stories and memories. And that's why these tournaments are so special, because they all come with their own highlights and memories, and that you'll just remember for a lifetime. But a huge thank you to England fans Kunal and Paul for their contribution to this episode. It really is hugely appreciated. And both of them spoke really well and shared some great personal stories as well, which I really enjoyed listening to. So yeah, we also heard from England fan Russell Osborne. He's the host of the Three Lions podcast. I'm sure many of you listen to that as well as this, but if you don't, please do check it out. It's a great listen and covers all aspects of England, men, women, youth teams, disability teams, all sorts. So yeah, a really good listen. As is Channel England Football, which is a YouTube channel about England, and that's done by Gary Lambert, who you heard from earlier. Once again, do check his YouTube channel out. It's a great watch, and he has a live stream every Sunday night talking about England. So please do check that one out as well. And he's also released a documentary about why England haven't won anything in 59 years. So yeah, just loads of great content. And also we heard from Matt, who is one of the hosts of Bridging the Divide podcast. Now this podcast is about three fans who support three different teams, Derby, Leeds and Man United. And they explore the similarities and differences between their clubs. A really good listen, and a few of the episodes have been about England, so do check out Bridging the Divide podcast. And it's a bit like Football Ramble, so if you like that, you'll like this one. I know that's information overload there. I've just recommended three different things, but they've helped me out by sending in a message, so I thought it would only be fair if I gave them all a shout out. And yeah, all three are really enjoyable, and yeah, please do check all three of them out. Definitely recommend them all. But yeah, once again, thanks to everyone who sent in a message. And this sort of feels like a quarter way mark almost. If you think about it, Southgate had 4 tournaments. Now I've just finished talking about the first, as well as all the friendlies and qualifiers prior to the tournament. So yeah, it feels like I'm a quarter of the way there, really. And I'm loving it so far. And obviously this podcasting, I'm still learning, still developing, still growing in confidence with it all. But hopefully my passion for England comes across in the episodes. And yeah, I absolutely love producing these episodes, and hopefully it's bringing back memories along the way. Also, let me know if there's anything different you want me to do going forward. We obviously had several different people on today, and that's something I'm going to be looking at doing a lot more. And today was also an episode that was a bit longer than usual. And occasionally I will do these sort of bonus episodes where I'm not talking about a specific game, instead talking on more general terms and potentially getting people on. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and it's nice to hear other people's perspective on things rather than just my thoughts all the time. But yeah, it really was a summer to remember, and a summer that made watching England enjoyable again, and having a team that we were proud of. Such an incredible achievement. So coming up after this, I'll be talking about England's first ever Nations League campaign, where they were in a group of 3 along with Spain and Croatia. And there's also 2 friendlies against Switzerland and the USA embedded in between those fixtures as well. So that will see us until the end of 2018. So plenty of exciting games coming very soon. But yeah, right, I think I'll leave it there. So that leaves me to say, as always, thanks for listening to this episode and for any of the episodes across the 2018 World Cup. And until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.
To take the second youngest team in the tournament and the least experienced team in the tournament and break through so many historical barriers has to be a brilliant achievement for the team.